Let's talk about something every parent knows all too well. Trying to find an after-school program that's, well, more than just a glorified babysitter. We're looking for something that actually builds characters, something that teaches discipline. And the answer might be hiding in a place you'd never expect. It's that question, isn't it? The one that kind of nags at you. The final school bell rings, but you're still stuck at work for a few more hours. So what's really going on in that gap? Are your kids learning and growing, or are they just kind of drifting? And this is why that question matters so much. Look, this isn't just a parent's hunch. Experts from child psychologists to criminologists, they all point to these exact hours as a really critical time. We're not just talking about boredom here. This is a window where kids are way more susceptible to everything from just too much screen time to, well, to more serious trouble. It's a problem that needs a real solution, not just a band-aid. So this leads us to what you could call the after-school crisis. And the problem isn't that there aren't enough programs out there. It's that there aren't enough of the right kind of programs. So what's the real difference between just keeping a kid busy and helping them develop? And here's the first huge roadblock. Let's be honest. The best programs, the ones with amazing coaches and a real plan for the kids, they usually come with a really hefty price tag. This whole pay-to-play system means that for so many families, character development has become a luxury they just can't afford. So let's break down the difference. On one hand, you have activity-based programs. You can think of them as basically holding pens, a room with some basketballs. Sure, it keeps kids off the street, but there are no real expectations, no real mentorship. But then you have development-based programs. These are intentional. They use a sport as a tool to teach life skills. They have high standards. They have a structure. And that whole idea of development forces us to look at a really important word, discipline. For a lot of us, that word probably has some negative baggage, right? But we need to look at it in a totally new way. Okay, this distinction right here is absolutely key. Think about it. Punishment is something that happens to you, from the outside, after you've already messed up. But discipline, that's a strength you build inside yourself, so you can make the right choice in the first place. The goal isn't to control a kid, it's to give them the tools to control themselves. And this is how you build that internal strength. It's not through some big lecture or a list of rules. It's built through small, consistent, even boring, repeated actions. Just the simple act of wrapping your hands the exact same way before every single workout, that repetition builds focus, it builds resilience. That right there is discipline in action. So where can kids find that kind of structure, that kind of powerful routine? Well, the answer might surprise you because it brings us to a sport that seems a little counterintuitive at first, but is incredibly powerful for building exactly this kind of internal discipline: boxing. We're living through an epidemic of youth anxiety. Kids' brains are constantly buzzing. Boxing acts like this unique reset button. When you are in that gym, you literally cannot be thinking about your math test or what's happening on social media. The sport demands 100% of your focus, what you could call a state of hyperpresence. It gives the brain a much-needed break from that nonstop cycle of worry. And for any kid who's struggling with anger or just has all this pent-up energy, it's a total game changer. I mean, telling a teenager to just calm down is pretty much useless. But boxing gives them a safe, supervised place to physically channel all of that adrenaline. And what they learn really fast is that wild, sloppy anger doesn't work. They have to learn how to turn that raw energy into sharp, calculated focus. Of course, let's be real, the moment you say boxing and kids in the same sentence, every parent has the exact same question pop into their head. What about safety? And that is a totally valid concern, and it's something the best programs take incredibly seriously. The absolute best youth boxing programs all run on what they call a brain-first protocol. For months, beginners don't even get close to sparring. It's all about fundamentals: footwork, stance, hitting the heavy bag, zero contact. They're taught from day one that this is a science, not a street fight. And only when they're truly ready for supervised sparring, they're using elite, state-of-the-art headgear and extra padded gloves. But honestly, all the gear in the world is just one part of the safety equation. The single most important factor, the real heart of these programs, is the coach. These aren't just trainers. They are mentors. They're the ones checking in on grades, asking how things are going at home. They hold these kids to a really high standard, but without judgment. For a lot of these young people, that coach becomes the most consistent, demanding, and supportive adult in their entire life. So when you put all that together, that focus on safety, that genuine mentorship, what you end up with is something that's way, way more than just a sport. And you don't have to take my word for it. The results really do speak for themselves. If you look at this data from a program called the Equal Chance Boxing Foundation, you can see the impact. That first pair shows they've trained over 500 kids. The second shows that their coaches identified over 150 of those kids whose lives were completely turned around by the program. And that third bar, a 95% completion rate. For any youth program, that is just incredible. This is proof that it's not just about keeping kids busy, it's about changing the direction of their lives. And that really brings us to this powerful line from the source material because it just says it all. For so many kids who are trying to navigate really chaotic, challenging worlds, a place like a boxing gym becomes their sanctuary. It's a place of order, respect, and growth. It's a lifeline. So that question on the screen, it's a powerful one. And it's not just for them. It's really for all of us. The next round is always starting, and these kids need to know there's someone in their corner. Thanks so much for joining us.